All right, my name's David Schultz. I'm the owner and of L&D Construction, and then another company that does off-site construction called Simple Homes, and we'll get into both. Also, my colleague Sarah is here, and she can answer any additional questions as well. She's really a zoning expert, especially in the city and county of Denver. 4 years ago, when Sarah and I started this, barely anybody knew what an ADU was when they came to our events. And now the vast majority of people now don't understand the nuances of the code and that type of thing, but at least understand what ADUs are. So one of the things that we've looked at is where are they doing industrial construction at scale, and how are they getting at these problems? Accessory dwelling units, being a voice in that space in Denver especially.
The way that we're living today is so much different than the way that it used to be.
In Sweden, they build 90% of all their residential housing in a factory to some level. They're 30% more productive, and the houses are 50% more efficient. And we didn't even bring up the waste component there. We're still early on in this, but we're running at about 3% total waste, comparatively. Quick video of one that we did in West Colfax. So we'll basically go from a foundation to dried in one day.
How do you deal with, I've always thought your kind of construction technique makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
But getting past the stigma of modular constructions.
Yeah, that's why we try to talk about the Scandinavian influence, and we call it offsite or panelized construction, because it is built to a much higher standard. What you can do if you're building it all on the flat and you're not working against gravity, and it's not...
You don't have adverse weather conditions, and
we basically won't allow any water to get in the house, because we can go, or very, very little, because we can go from foundation, the one in Arvada, foundation to closed in about 4 hours. So you're immediately dried in. And so the critical path for a contractor from my L&D side is, how do we get from foundation to closed in so my mechanical, electrical, plumbing guys are working as quickly as possible? So that's our biggest value prop in the beginning. And then I think we'll chip away at, well, can we efficiently and cost effectively add different other components? Can we add some mechanical, electrical, plumbing, rough ends? So it really is, we build everything else in our lives in some industrialized fashion, and just not our housing for whatever reason.
Can I get your attention for 1 minute?
Hey everybody, I'm Sarah Cinderhoff with L&D Construction over here at 4891 Lincoln Street. As you can see around me, we have been dumped on with snow the last couple days. Got some snow last night. We were able to get this site cleared off so we can set the panels over here today to get this ADU project built in. This is the great thing about this panelized building. While it was snowing over here the last few days, we were over in the factory putting together all the panels and the walls in a controlled environment so they weren't getting snowed on. So this is great. We have a nice, beautiful day today. We're getting these panels set. It'll all be dried in, and it's going to be a great product in the end for this client.
David, question for you. So you are one of the few companies in Denver that's done a handful or a lot of ADUs. Why are you guys successful? What are you guys doing right that other builders should clue into?
Yeah, so I think part of it actually is that it's very complicated. And so the fact that Sarah and I have been in this space for approaching 4 years, and there's still things that come up within the zoning component of what we do that we haven't seen before. So it just takes somebody that is in this space all the time. And so I think we've made a very concerted effort to build ADUs and design ADUs and teach people about ADUs. So I think that that's really the key to our success.
So I'm here with David Schultz. He's the owner of L&D Construction, and we're going to be chatting with you tonight, of course, about ADUs. That's why you're all here. There's an ADU that we're building over here, 48th and Lincoln. This woman she works abroad. and she had been designing her ADU and had her plans all designed, came to us. I took a look at the zoning. I was like, oh, unfortunately your zoning's not allowed for it. She had to go through a whole rezoning process. It was really an unfortunate thing for her because she thought that she was ready to go in for permitting. The rezoning process takes 6 to 8 months in Denver to go through a rezoning. Once Blueprint Denver was adopted, we are starting to see rezoning on individual properties where people will be able to change their zoning to allow for an ADU. You can go in and change a whole block if you can get all your neighbors on board, but we can do it lot by lot.
I have a question for David, and you talked about doing business in Denver. Have you done business in other cities? I know Denver's hard to get a permit for, but maybe not so hard in other cities?
Yeah, so the only other place that we've worked in is Arvada. I think it harkens back just a little bit to one of Cole's comments earlier, is that the cost of land and the cost of houses and the housing is really the driver, the initial driver of, well, am I going to pay $300,000 to build something in my backyard, or am I going to buy my neighbor's house for $350,000? So that's really the calculation. And in Denver, it's gone from, I used to be able to do that, now it's $400,000 or $500,000 or more. So now all of a sudden $275,000 or whatever the cost may be starts to make more sense. So we are starting to see a little bit more stuff come across from Arvada. Inglewood specifically, we've seen some talk around it, but they have a lot of the poison pills that Cole talks about. So strategically, from a business standpoint, we've decided not to even pursue that space right now because of that. So, but outside of that, we haven't seen much outside of Denver.
Full disclosure, we're both planners for the city of Aurora.
Yeah.
You can build an ADU in the region of Aurora, so we would welcome.
A quick comment about Aurora too, compared to working in Denver, is we've worked in Aurora on the simple home side, and it's much, much easier. So we appreciate that for sure. So.
Nice job.
Thanks. Yeah.
We just finished up the Mayor's Caucus event down here in Inglewood. It was an ADU workshop. I think it was a really good event. David was one of the speakers there. There were a few breakout sessions. I think overall the event went really well. I think one of my biggest takeaways today, and it's something that we know, but we don't really talk about it a whole lot, just how housing has changed. And we have these large homes that it used to be, 4 people living in. Now we have 1 to 2 people living in a unit. And so we really have to take a look at how we're changing housing. And I think just like that reminder, it's like we talk about affordability, we talk about needing smaller units, but why? The age range of where we're seeing people migrate to this area is 27 to 35. How is that age demographic living today?
Right.
Too, and it's like, yes, ADUs is the solution.
I think to piggyback on that too, I think some of the interesting things that other cities have done have allowed attached ADUs. So using some of that space in the average home of 2,500 square feet in the basement to house people that actually is affordable and attainable for the single person or the couple, or multi-generational living. And then also allowing a detached ADU, which just by the fact that it's detached costs a little bit more. So these incremental steps I think we can take to really get at this problem. And the one thing is that we're not really adding any additional density than say was there from 1960, where the state demographer today said Denver reached peak density in 1960, and now we're just barely starting to creep back towards that. So we're just taking these neighborhoods back to a density level in which they have already been, and we're successful at that point. So some of the different nuances were really interesting, especially hearing it from another market that's already been successful. Look to these places that are scaling ADUs and what are they doing well, and then there's also some opportunities to improve upon that. But let's just not copy the neighbor next door. Let's actually figure out Portland's doing it well, Austin's doing it well, Denver's doing it well to some degree. Especially in Denver right now, take the opportunity that Blueprint has allowed to make some tweaks that will further influence ADU development, not just ADU development, but good ADU development that can get at some of these affordability and attainability issues. But we also have this big group of people that are, the largest aging population is 65 plus, and they want to stay in their homes, and as a society we should want them to stay in their homes, not only because of economic reasons, it's much cheaper to keep them in their homes, but for all the other lifestyle reasons that everybody wants to stay in their home.
Lots of reasons why ADUs work for everyone.
Yep.